Welcome to Silicon Valley Business, a show focused on highlighting the innovation and heart of Silicon Valley. I am your host, Oscar Garcia, and today it is my honor to be celebrating Earth Day, but really the topic on environmental sustainability. And I'd like to welcome my guests, Steve, Celia, and Jonathan. Thank you, all of you, for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Oscar.
So, Steve, let's start with you. Let's start with the city of Mountain View, and tell us about some of the initiatives or sustainability projects that the city has going on right now.
You bet. Thanks very much. I'm going to highlight kind of three major initiatives that the city of Mountain View has been working on for quite a while. Back in 2009, the City Council passed short-term and long-term greenhouse gas reduction targets with the ultimate goal of reducing the city's emissions 80% below its 2005 baseline year by 2050. So that's a significant task. So right now, actually, I'm in the middle of working with the council to adopt some climate action plans, both for our municipal operations and for our community-wide. And so those plans that are going to be adopted over the next few months will lay out a series of strategies and policies and actions that the City Council can choose to adopt if they would like, and that would begin to put us on the road to actually reducing that 80% reduction target by 2050. And one of kind of a second major topic is actually highlighted in both of those municipal and community climate action plans. And we're in the early stages of investigating, with the council's support, something called community choice energy. And that's actually really growing in popularity in California right now. And the idea behind that, very simply, is where several communities, local cities come together, and they decide to go out to the market, actually form a nonprofit called the Joint Powers Authority, and go out to the market and procure energy on the open market on behalf of their residents and businesses. And the reason for doing this is through economies of scale. We can generally, through a CCE, derive lower rates for the residents and businesses and actually procure higher amounts of renewable energy than are currently available through the local utility. So we're really excited about that in just the very early stages of investigating that possibility with Cupertino, Sunnyvale, and the unincorporated county. And the last kind of major project that the city is working on, and has been for a long time, is transportation. If you live in Mountain View or visit, you know that in the last several years, transportation has become very difficult, particularly getting into and out of the North Bay Shore, where a large business community is. So we've put in place a number of things, such as 2 community shuttles that are completely free to get people out of their cars and using public transportation. We've done a shoreline corridor study to actually really re-envision the shoreline boulevard nexus that goes into the North Bay Shore. And we also have bicycle master plans and pedestrian master plans. So we're really looking at all kinds of different ways of reducing vehicle miles traveled and reducing emissions associated with transportation.
Wow, so Mountain View definitely is leading and certainly has some very aggressive goals. So thank you very much, Steve, for sharing this. And Celia, I'll go to you. Recology is an amazing company. I actually, having grown up here in Mountain View, knew Recology when it was Foothill Disposal. In fact, I played a Little League on their Little League baseball team.
Oh, wow.
So, but tell us about some of the initiatives that Recology has for the businesses and even the residents.
Sure. So our slogan is we like to find the best and highest use of all resources. So we like to divert materials as much as possible away from the landfill, find all the special vendors that can recycle or reuse materials. And so we also we introduced the compost service to commercial customers in July of 2013. So now a little bit over 15% of our commercial customers have compost service. Which is great. That's really helping our diversion goals. And all of the recyclables and the trash in the city of Mountain View go to the Sunnyvale Smart Station. So the recyclables are sorted into commodities and the trash is actually sorted as well. So that's really helping with our diversion goals. So the recyclables that are in the trash stream are recovered. All of the compostable material, the commercial compostable material, goes down to our facility in Gilroy called South Valley Organics. And there it's a 50 to 60 day process, and it's turned into nutritious compost that we sell to farmers and wineries. So it's really it's a great closed loop cycle, and we're diverting all of that material away from the landfill, which is great. And then yes, for residential, we are piloting the food waste service for residences this summer. So we will have a neighborhood where we will pilot the program, and likely we will be rolling it out citywide if the pilot goes well.
Right. Tell me a little bit more about this last program that you mentioned, about the food program for residents. Mm-hmm. How is that going to work?
They will be putting their food waste in their yard trimmings cart.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, and that's the way it's been implemented in other cities nearby, and it's been working pretty well for those cities. So we're hopeful it'll work well here. And part of the pilot is we will see if we will be picking up the trash every other week, which is groundbreaking. We would actually be the first city to do that.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that would be amazing if Mountain View, we're innovative, we're pioneers. It would be great if we could do that.
Fantastic.
If that would work, yeah.
Okay, so I won't feel guilty anymore after my barbecue to just dump my food in the yard trimming. No, I'm kidding.
No, but really, I mean, because then it's being turned into compost and it's not going to the landfill, so
Right.
you don't have to feel that guilty.
You're right. That is innovative.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you have a very interesting nonprofit, and it's actually been around for, I think you said 18 years. Tell us about FabMo.
FabMo is an organization that goes to the design showrooms and picks up the materials that are discontinued. My wife and I used to go up to the summer market and winter market about 18 years ago when it began. And when you see something new coming in, you realize after a while that means there's something old that's going away. Mm-hmm. There was no productive use for that old material. And she said, I can do better than that. And she indeed has done so. She would develop relationships with the showrooms, and we would get a bag or two of materials every 6 or 8 weeks, and she would pass that out to the various schools in Palo Alto where she was working. We built it up to 5 school districts and the Children's Theater, and then we ran into summer vacation, so we had to do something different. And that's where it has grown from there. We are preserving the environment by enabling creativity and building community. And we have an incredible community of wonderful people that have been coming and enjoying these materials for some time. We make the materials available for creative reuse by anyone who's interested. We do that with events. Once a month we'll do a 3-day event in our warehouse, and we're now experimenting with satellite locations so we can take a truckload and reduce the vehicle miles traveled. It was one truck going instead of 50 cars coming is going in the right direction.
Right.
We're very much in favor also of the highest use for the materials. And the materials that we get are exquisite. They're high-end, brand new, very high quality materials. And it was appalling to us to think that they were just going to the landfill. So we've been gathering those from a bag every couple of months. We now are picking up more than a truckload every week. We last year did 70 tons of material.
70 tons, wow.
70 tons of material. And it started off with fabric. That's the fab of FabMo. And then people started saying, well, are you interested in wallpaper? Yes. Are you interested in tiles? Yes. Stone? Yes. Glass, metal, wood, wallpaper, leathers, trims, all kinds of things. And that's the Mo. And so we have people that make an incredible variety of things from these basic materials. It is, it's very inspiring, very inspiring.
No, absolutely.
And we're all volunteer, we're donor supported. We have about 300 volunteers on the active volunteer list. We put in about 12,000 volunteer hours a year. And it's just really fun. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I never would have envisioned that an organization such as yours existed. So thank you. Steve, I want to come back to you. You mentioned some great programs that the city has, but there's got to be some challenges as well with sustainability. Can you tell us what are some of the biggest challenges with sustainability for the
Sure.
city?
How much time do you have? Well, the whole concept of sustainability is so broad. It encompasses everything from energy efficiency to renewable energy to transportation to water conservation to waste reduction, and then also looking at sustainability from the standpoint of the human dimension of sustainability. In the media today and in the press generally and historically, the focus has been on environmental sustainability, and that's really critical because we have one planet. And at this juncture, we're kind of using more resources, continuing to deplete resources at a faster rate than they can be naturally replenished. So to answer your question specifically, I'm going to kind of key into a couple of things. Probably the biggest, there are three really big challenges for Mountain View around sustainability, and one of them I already touched on, and that's related to transportation. 61% of the community's greenhouse gases come from transportation, and that's actually up from 57% in 2005. So we have more inhabitants, we have more workers and residents, we're driving more, and we're sitting on the freeways longer. So this is generating more greenhouse gases. So I mentioned some of the programs that before that Mountain View has specifically put in place to try to get people out of their single occupancy vehicles, particularly during commute times, and bicycling and walking as much as possible. So it's our largest source of emissions, and yet for the city, it is least within our control. So it continues to be kind of the hardest nut to crack, but we continue to focus a large number of city resources on that. So the second kind of key item, and I think all I have to do is use one word, which is drought.
Right.
California's in the fourth year of its drought. Things are getting pretty serious. And there are three kind of interesting metrics to be aware of. First of all, the state of California has called for a 25% mandated restriction, first of all. Secondly, the city of Mountain View is looking at required reductions of between 15 and 20%. And we'll know a little bit more closely exactly what the percentage is kind of at the end of May. And then the third thing to be aware of from water is that residents and businesses can expect up to a 28% rate increase within the next year, and up to 54% over the next 4 years. So water is really going to suddenly start to take center stage, not only because of the limitation of it, but also because we're going to start seeing rates that are more in line with how valuable a resource it really is. And then the last item, it touches on the human dimension of sustainability, which is, again, if you live here or certainly live in the Bay Area, you know that housing is becoming a real problem in Mountain View.
Yes.
The cost of renting and owning is going through the roof, and it has been. And the real challenge is that folks who have lived here for many, many years are actually being displaced because they can't afford to stay in town. So that is a quality of life issue that hits on the social side of sustainability, and the council is doing a number of things to try to densify the new developments in town, including actually recently deciding to look at adding housing to the North Bayshore Park. So a number of things underway, but there's a big discrepancy and some real challenges related to housing.
Yeah, no, you're right. Working at the Chamber, we definitely hear and see from our members these challenges that you mentioned, cost of living, transportation, and certainly, of course, the drought, certainly. So thank you, very well said. Celia, talk about some of the specific tools that Recology offers businesses to help them reduce their waste, or maybe help them reduce the cost, to businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I come into play. That's my role in Mountain View. I reach out to businesses. I reach out to the highest volume businesses first, and I try to help them to divert as many materials away from the landfill as possible. And so we do this by auditing their waste stream. So that means I am meeting with the facilities manager, the property manager, and we're taking a look at what's currently going in the trash. And of that material, how much of it's compostable, how much of that is food waste, and soiled paper towels, even paper towels from the restroom. How much of that is napkins, prepared food. A lot of people don't think that prepared food can be considered compost, and it can be. So I'm looking at that to see how much of that is going into the waste stream. And then as well, how many of their plastic bottles and cans and aluminum trays from catered lunches, how much of that is going into the waste stream, because those materials are considered recyclable. So once I'm able to kind of see how much is going in the waste stream, then I can, most businesses have recycling in Mountain View, which is great. So I can then increase their recycling service, and recycling's free in Mountain View for residential, multifamily dwellings, as well as commercial. It's free universally, which is great. So I can increase their recycling service, and then I can start them up on compost service. And compost service is discounted 25% from trash service. So there's a little bit of a cost savings involved, because we can decrease their trash service, start them up with compost service, and then they save a little bit of money there. And then that material, like I said, goes to our facility down in Gilroy, South Valley Organics. So once I've audited them, and I've kind of set them up with the appropriate services, and they've actually agreed to do that, because they have to agree, and sometimes change is scary, and so they understand that they would like to divert materials, but they put it off. So then I have to kind of bug them. But so once they agree to change their services, and we increase their recycling, start them up with compost service, decrease their trash, then I do employee trainings, and then we also provide internal containers. So blue containers for recycling, green containers for compost, and these are free of charge. And then we have image-based signage. So these are stickers that go on the internal containers, and we do image-based because there's so many languages in Mountain View. Images transcend all languages, and people don't really take the time to read lists. So the pictures work really well. We've found that Recology is the hauler for many cities on the peninsula, and we're known for our good signage. So we found that that's really helpful to have clear, good, concise signage. So we have the stickers for the indoor containers, and then we have posters as well, and informational brochures, and we provide as many as each commercial account needs to have a successful program. And we do this, we put a lot of money into this, and we do this because it makes processing down the road much easier for us. It helps them to put things in the correct stream, and then it actually helps us out a lot down the road. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, you do offer quite a bit there for business, just listening to you here. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Jonathan, we've been talking about sustainability, and I want to know what sustainability means to FabMo and how you achieve it.
There are really two pieces to the sustainability question for FabMo. First of all, it's the sustainability of the organization itself. I use the metaphor of going to the beach and with a bucket of wet sand, and it becomes a sandcastle. And at the end of the day, it's really pretty nice, and you don't want it to go away. And yet, when it was built, there was no foundation under it. So the sustainability of the organization is to try to put a foundation under it without destroying it in the process.
Sure.
And we've been working very hard on that. We've had a lot of good support from SCORE and others to help us with that. We've got a fabulous board, and everything is working and proceeding very nicely. The sustainability of the process is the other thing, and it's harder because you can keep stuff out of the landfill by putting it into storage, but that doesn't solve the problem. That simply changes the problem. And so our sustainability comes when what comes in as surplus goes out with purpose. And it comes in and goes out at about the same pace, so that we're not having a storage issue. We're just the throughput. We're just the conduit between the source of materials and the people who will put it into good use. So in order to encourage that, we of course, what we're creating is a community, and it's a very supportive community. And people are encouraging each other as to what sort of projects they make, or solving problems, ad hoc solve them on the floor. And once a year, we also have a FabMo Textile Art Boutique to celebrate the crafters and the things that they make.
Oh,
this is our 7th year coming up of doing that. We used to take over the Quadras Conference Center in Menlo Park. We're a little closer to Mountain View now. We were at the Elks Club in Palo Alto, and which is a gorgeous facility. We had 50 artists there last year, in last October, and about 900 people coming in from the community. It's an opportunity to talk about FabMo, to talk about the concept of repurposing, to realize that there is a tremendous resource that is available if people will only open their eyes and recognize it. And so we also take, we have an outreach effort. We're going out to Earth Day and Maker Fair and San Mateo County Fair and various other events where we have information tables talking about FabMo, talking about repurposing, but then we have activity tables using repurposed materials and having the kids make projects, which are a lot of fun, and it's a high energy sort of a thing. And I'm going to need to find out about the Moffett Field Earth Day, because that sounds
we'll
like
get you there next year.
Yeah, we'll get there. Definitely, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
They had exhibitor booths there, so it's a probably great opportunity for next year.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, people just don't realize it. Probably the biggest problem that we have is that people can't visualize what we do until they come and see it.
Yes.
Joe Simidian was saying that yesterday, that he was, people just don't see without actually coming to visit.
Right.
So we're continuing to work on that.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you. Steve, what can businesses do to help with these sustainability efforts?
Well, there's a myth somewhat still today that being sustainable is very expensive and it's really difficult. So one of the first things I just want to mention is the concept of low-hanging fruit. Whether you're a small, medium, or large-size business, you've got a building, you've got heating, hot water, cooling, etc. And what we find in terms of the low-hanging fruit, there are so many different things, very simple things to do, such as upgrading to high-efficiency lighting, installing occupancy sensors, even tying occupancy sensors to the heating and cooling system. So many things like that that are actually relatively inexpensive and easy to do, and the payback on those is actually often within just a few years. So actually, when a company takes on these actions, they're going to actually see a return on their investment very quickly. And here's the beauty of it. In addition to that, there are so many resources available, not only to residents, but also to businesses, where they can actually get rebates or low-cost financing to do some of these upgrades at pretty much no cost to them up front. A couple of those would be the California First program that's available to businesses and residents. There's another program called Energy Upgrade California that's available, provides all kinds of kind of soup to nuts services for upgrades to single family homes and multifamily dwellings. And then also, let's not forget significant rebates through PG&E and the Water District. So again, there's a lot of money out there to do these simple things, and it actually just makes a big difference on the balance sheet. A couple other things just to keep in mind for businesses. I mentioned before, getting back to the transportation thing. If businesses are able to provide incentives for their employees to commute via public transportation, that's something that the city obviously would really encourage. And it gets toward that 61% of our emissions. And then the last thing I'll just mention, if anyone is feeling like, I don't know where to start, a great place to start is the Santa Clara County Green Business Certification Program. They've had this program for a long time. You can call them up and you can actually get help, and they'll walk you through the process. And after you've done a certain number of actions, you actually get certified as a Santa Clara County green business. So that's a great way to get hand holding along the way. And all of these kind of incentives and rebates that I've mentioned, they're all going to be laid out and provided through that program.
Right. Well, through you reminded me, through the Chamber's Green Business University program, we've worked with the county as well as with you and other folks for this. So no, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Celia, so earlier, just before we started taping the show, you were talking to one of our folks here about, the question was, where does this waste, the recyclable and compostable material, where does it go? I know you mentioned earlier about some of it gets sold to farms and wineries, but what about the other stuff? Where does that go?
The trash and the recyclables? So we're contracted with the Sunnyvale Smart Station. So all of the residential and commercial waste goes to the Sunnyvale Smart Station, and so the trash is sorted, which is very unique. It's Palo Alto, Los Altos, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale that are contracted with the Sunnyvale Smart Station. So it's called a, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but it's called a dirty MRF, and MRF is Materials Recovery Facility.
Sure.
And it's called a dirty MRF because they're sorting through the trash.
Right.
So the recyclables that end up in the waste stream are recovered. And that's not to disincentivize people from using their recycling, because you know, if everyone just put their recyclables in the trash, there's no way they have the manpower to recover all of that. So the recyclables, all of the residential and commercial recyclables also go to the Sunnyvale Smart Station.
Okay.
And so they get sorted into commodities and then sold to vendors to be recycled. But to Steve's point, actually, businesses can save money as well with adding compost service.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, because when they can decrease their trash and start the compost service, and when they can increase their recycling, they'll find that they can really significantly decrease their trash service.
Right.
And they will see a savings immediately with that.
Okay.
So, it kind of pays to go green.
Yes, it does. No, absolutely. It definitely does. So, Jonathan, we're going to be wrapping up here. So, just really quickly, what do you see the future of FabMo going here in the next 3 to 5 years?
We're working on initiatives now. We found that about 85% of our people come from within 10 miles of our warehouse, which means we're covering Mountain View and Los Altos and Palo Alto pretty well. But it leaves huge areas of the bay that we're not serving. And by taking a truckload out and doing selection events, having satellite sites, which we did one in Santa Cruz last week, and we're looking, as I said, at East Bay and North Bay and various other places. That's what is very important to us, because our quantities of intake continue to go up as more and more people learn about us. We have garment manufacturers that provide us with materials and such as that. So that's the number one priority for us, is to open new markets and be able to serve beyond that.
Good.
We've had people inquire from elsewhere in the country. I'm not aware of any other organization that does what we do anywhere in the United States.
Right.
And so as we encounter those, we're trying to nurture those and help them along. But that's
good.
We've taken a 5-year lease now. We feel like we have some sense of permanence, and so we're really happy to be able to have an event like, a conversation like this.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jonathan and Celia and Steve, for being on the show. I certainly learned a lot and great information for businesses and residents. So thank you very much for everything that you do for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, Oscar. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.